That's the nod for like, let's start. Come on then.
That's what they do on TV, isn't it? That's because it's the secret signal that no one else is watching.
The
knows.
international nod. Yeah.
So we wanted to talk to you today about the features that all of the successful personal trainers and coaches all share that makes them wildly profitable when they work with us. And we'd love to say that it's all because of our amazing coaching and our amazing systems, but really a system is only as good as the person who's using it. And having worked with, is it 500 online coaches at this point? We're starting to see the same patterns emerge each time. So we wanted to go through what these features are and some examples, as well as the kind of common mindset and behaviors and decision criteria that they all seem to follow.
I do just want to cover something about the system first, because I think it is the people who use the system that make it effective. It isn't going to, like, what we teach doesn't just build you an online fitness business without any work at all. But I think that the most important part of anything that you follow, even if you don't listen to us and you choose to listen to another mentor or coach, is that there has to be a set of strategies for what happens when things go wrong or don't work, because it has to be a completely closed loop. So everybody that we're about to talk about had multiple problems along the way when getting to the point they're at now. Like, they didn't launch their first thing and it worked seamlessly and now they're a testimonial and we're talking about them. Both of us can recall talking to every single one of them in great detail about various problems and roadblocks they hit along the way, but each of them asked for help. And I think more importantly, that the reason we teach just one funnel, we teach one strategy, one traffic source, one way to coach people, is we have a series of strategies at every single point along that process where, when this goes wrong, here's the 5 things that we think would fix that, or when this is happening, these are the 3 things we think you should probably consider. So if you are going to follow any model or any system or learn from somebody, make sure it isn't just, oh, do this thing and hope it works. And if it does, great, you're a testimonial. If not, oh, well, you've got the wrong mindset, right? That's not a system that you can consistently follow for the next decade, because things are going to go wrong. Stuff isn't going to work. And you need a series of strategies to fall back on when that does happen. But when you put the right person into that system and they have the approaches and the mindsets and the attitudes of the people that we're going to talk about, then things really start working.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, none of these are naturally lucky people. Like, they're not lottery winner type people. None of them are big influencers. They don't have huge reach, and they're not the kind of people that, I don't think any of them have done things in the past where they've just nailed it first time. Like, you do get the James Smiths of this world who have this kind of perfect combination of hard work and charisma and the stars aligning, and they do really well. But it's not something that you can then package and replicate for another trainer. So these people, nothing went super smoothly for any of them. It never does. But that's kind of the point, and that's why we wanted to use these guys as examples. So there's so many, and these are just the ones that came to mind when we wanted to record this video. But the shared characteristic of success with people in this program is actually a lot of the same stuff that you will see that makes your fitness clients successful. It's how they approach everything. And a lot of these features are learnable and they're pretty global. So to start with, this is Alec. He runs the Human Blueprint, which is a yoga and more kind of holistic lifestyle coaching business. And he has been able to sell up his studio and go fully online. It's been amazing for him being able to go traveling and really scale his coaching offer online. Now he has a kind of a mid-ticket offer, which is the model that we coach. And some of the key features with his success are the fact that he is self-aware, he's industrious, he's got a solid offer that is going with the flow of what the market is looking for, and he's extremely client-focused. You can see from all of his content down to the way that he coaches people that he is looking to, at the core of everything, solve a problem for his client. I told you it'd be simple stuff.
Yeah. So, one of the cool things about Alec in particular actually is, and I think a lot of the problems with testimonials in general is you're considering working with someone or buying from someone or whatever, and you see like, oh, a video of someone saying, oh, in my first 3 weeks of working with blah, 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 I made £10,000 or whatever. And that's great. Like, obviously, cash is important. Businesses run on revenue. But the thing that I always wonder is, like, where are they in 90 days or where are they in a year? And Alec actually recorded us 2 videos that there'll probably be a link somewhere around this video in the description to go and see them. But he recorded the videos when he first started working with us, when he had success with the first time he got his challenge to work with ads and all that sort of stuff. But there's another video from him like a year later where he's at that point that Yusuf's talking about, where he has actually sold his studio, does online the full time now. But my main memory of working with Alec, the thing that sticks out when I think of him as a client is, as you say, how the self-awareness of where his weaknesses were. So I think he's very confident in his coaching ability. He's very confident in his ability to get clients. He's very confident in managing those clients. But he knew when he joined that, the technical stuff, so setting up automations and systems and running ads, that was stuff that was like completely new to him. But now there's actually been 3 occasions where he's taught me something in Active Campaign or in ads. So he's just thrown himself into it and learned these new skills by just being incredibly consistent week on week.
Yeah, like we've been doing it for a long time, but we don't have this like special secret knowledge. It's just the fact that we've been constantly willing to tinker and experiment and document and test and run £1 million of ad spend at this point over the years into getting the most high converting funnel and marketing program to share with you guys. So
you do love to tinker.
I love a good tinker. It's my favorite.
It's going to get you in trouble.
Well, tinkering killed the cat. So so the next one, and you can check out all these people, you can Google them, you'll see that they are not super influencers. They're just people who have put in the effort and executed a system. And to be able to generate enough financial security from having volume of mid-ticket clients is a much safer position to sell up your yoga studio. Because if you're making boom and bust type sales, even if you're making 20 grand in 1 month and then nothing the next month, that's not a stable position to sell up your studio. Because then if things do go tits up, you're kind of stuck. So this is why
you don't pay bills like all in January, right? Like you don't like run your life in January and then the rest of the year doesn't matter. And I think everybody we teach is running this like £100 to £200 a month offer, getting lots of volume into that offer, building this income stream that, it changes, but it's not going to go from like 5 grand to 0 to 10 grand to 0. And like, you can't run really your life like that. It's very hard to pay things, or forecast what you're going to need to pay for, or hire people, or buy new bits of software if you're not thinking, it's this much per month. So that is a key important part in anyone looking to leave either their job or offline PT or sell a studio, sell a gym. You want consistency and also predictability in that.
It's tortoise and hare, isn't it? And that's why, unfortunately, our system's not very sexy. And Jonny actually covers it entirely for free, like covers the full process. And you'll be like, oh, okay, I can see how that works. And that's just it's a slow burn. We're not going to promise you make 30 grand in the first month. But if you follow the system, you're much more likely to still be operating in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time. And that's what we're trying to do for you. So the next example, and I'm going to go a bit woo-woo with you here, is Nick Walsh. Not because Nick Walsh is a particularly woo-woo guy, but I think one of the big factors in his success is that he is so value-focused. He's one of these people that just has such a positive energy when you speak to him. He's got a really, really good vibe. He's very much an open circuit thinker. What I mean by that is that, so probably easiest to describe this as when certain people who are kind of closed circuit thinkers that are like, oh mate, you remember that 23 pence that you owe me from last Saturday? Can you or they're always trying to like get something out of any interaction. They're always seeing everything as transactional and always trying to kind of one up you. Whereas an open circuit thinker puts out positive vibes into the world and just trusts that over time that is going to build up some good points. David Hawkins talks about this in his book Power versus Force. And it's the same as It's the same attitude as if you give someone a gift without expecting anything in return versus giving it as a kind of transactional thing and then crossing them off the Christmas list if they don't give you one, and that kind of thinking, point scoring.
I think that stands out online because sadly, I think a lot of what people are taught is, it's because of the marketing advice and the sales advice is focused on making a sale, right? It's very easy to fall into this trap of, and people will even ask us this question, like, am I giving too much away for free? Or like, is my content too helpful? Like, are people not going to buy from me?
You never want to be too helpful. Oh,
No,
goodness me.
God, for heaven's sake, no. Absolutely, it's the last thing you want, to help too many people. That'd be terrible. But yeah, like if you feel like, oh well, I can't give that away because that person's not paid me, or I don't want to help that client because they're not paying me enough, and you have that sort of mindset and that approach to it, it does just put the brakes on because somebody else is going to be willing to do that. Essentially, like if someone can't get the free information from you, they'll go elsewhere. They'll go to YouTube. It's not really the problem at the moment for people. Is not lack of information. It's lack of the integration of that information or the lack of accountability. And so, yeah, something that Nick is absolutely, one of his strengths is just as much value as possible, as much help as possible. And that tends to reflect in sales and revenue, which you're right, is this, what you put out to the universe gives back, is a bit woo-woo, but I think there is something to that. And the more practical application of it is, if you're trying to hold all your secrets to, close to your chest, and you don't want to give stuff away for free, or you don't want to go above and beyond to help people, that's unlikely to have a long-term benefit for you. It's only really likely to serve against you.
If someone wants macros and you go, oh well, I'm not going to give them macros because they might just go away and do them, they're just going to Google it. They're not going to come back to you for coaching. And if you do, like, we've had so many cases where we've just got messages from people. We reply, not trying to pitch or anything, just kind of because they've asked us a question in earnest, and we'll send them some advice. And then 6 months later, a year later, they'll come back and be like, do you know what? You guys are so helpful. You stick in their memory as, oh, I remember that guy was really helpful, or took a bit of time to talk me through this. Then you're, of course, going to be the first choice when it comes to them to be ready to buy. And you can't always force a sales process. Like, you can have the best converting funnel in the world, but if someone's just not in the right position to buy, you can't kind of drag them through it. You might just have to give them a couple of weeks, and then when it's the right time for them, you're just the obvious choice.
It's the hardest thing to convince someone of, that they can't do it on their own, right? Because currently they think they can. And so trying to change someone's mind about that, it can be done. Like, you can make a logical argument as to why they'll run into problems. But if you take this approach of like, I'm not going to give them macros, or I'm not going to answer that question, because then they'll try and go and do it on their own, and that won't work. They're just going to go and use our free calculator or download one of our free programs, try on their own, and then realize in 6 months, I couldn't do it on my own. Now I need help. And as Yusuf pointed out, like, who they're going to go to at that point? They're going to go to the person who didn't just try to get every possible penny from them at every possible option, at every possible turn. They're going to go to the person who helped them for free, or was just honest with them, helpful, gave as much free information as they could.
Remember that people don't pay for pure information. They pay for the implementation of it. And so you can give away as much information as you want to pretty confidently, because it doesn't mean people are going to run away and just do it on their own. Some people will. And you know what? That's fine. That's why you're here, is to help people. And then the ones who do want more help, they'll come to you. So increase your reach by being useful overall. Accept that you will help tens of thousands of people, or hopefully millions of people. And then a small subset of that will want to sign up for the premium version.
One of the best things about online is you are going to interact with a ton of people who can't afford to work with you. They can't afford your fee, whatever you decide that is. And so as long as you're making enough sales, like as long as you're hitting your revenue targets, as long as your business is growing, or whatever your goals might be, what a great side effect of running your business than to have this like body of free information that's more valuable than your competitors. That's there's as much as you can give away practically for free to help the people who can't afford to work with you. And it's the reason why we have 100+ podcast episodes, or however many hours of stuff on YouTube, or why the video, for example, that Yusuf mentioned, like people will say, why do you teach us so much in that video for free? It's like, well, the people who want to work with us are still going to want to work with us after watching the video. Like, they're not going to watch the video and go, oh, I've got everything I need now to build a business that's going to last me a decade. Obviously, there's more to it, but there'd be no use in hiding our model or hiding what we do, right? Because what if someone watches it and it does help them? It's a side effect of doing it. So something that Nick does, the reason he's been able to do this, the reason he's been able to sell his gym and work online is this approach to it. It's that attitude of focus on the value, helping people, not trying to just make money at every possible turn. Obviously, you need systems to generate sales and cash, but having this view of like, it'll probably happen anyway, as long as I focus on giving as much value as I can.
It's actually great news, because if it was the case that people just wanted the workout program or the spreadsheet and they'll go away and do it, there would be no market for coaching.
Yeah. God, yeah, that's a great point.
So next we have Kat Butterfield. So she is a yoga teacher who has moved on to kind of a low to mid ticket online offering. And pretty simple. In her case, she's got a great offer. There is existing demand for yoga. So she's not trying to reinvent the wheel. She is redirecting existing demand into a product that is well delivered. And she just sticks to the program. Like, if you have a client that sticks to a program, they're eventually going to get results. And so she stays stupid, which is, I mean that in the most affectionate way, because we always tried to be too clever in the past. And it was always when we got ourselves in the way and we tried to have bright ideas of our own that we ended up going off course. And when we followed an established system and just stayed stupid, put the blinders on, separate planning from execution and just do the thing, the results are always predictable.
It's it's something that Alec and Nick have as well, right? Like both of them didn't go through the first 3 weeks of the program and then put their own spin on it. And that's not to say that like there's no room for flexibility in what we teach, but I'm sure you have this same feeling as a coach that probably one of the biggest frustrations you have is the client who checks in, who says like, oh, I didn't do day 4 because I kind of thought, well, I felt a bit tired and my knees hurt. And I had a high calorie day on Friday as well because I was just far too hungry, right? They're over intellectualizing it and thinking, oh, well, I know better. I'm going to override the program. And lo and behold, those are also the people who don't get the results.
That reminds me, actually, I've stopped my leg days now because I play five-a-side football with the lads on the weekend. So I think I don't need to train legs really.
So what we mean, this is exactly what we mean. Think, well, no, that the program says this. That's what I need to do, right? And I think having that approach to it, while obviously asking questions, asking for help, and applying like a reasonableness lens to it, those are the people who 12 weeks in are like, oh yeah, here's the clients that I generated from my second or third run of the 14-day challenge, and you're like, whoa, Kat, where did that come from? Realistically, there's 100+ things you could do at any one time to try and build and run your online business. So you need the guardrails up, and you need someone to say like, yep, it's okay, you're going the right direction. Yeah, keep going. Yep, it's going well, keep going. But once you've got that structure, it's just about being consistent and applying discipline and just completing the steps, not completing steps 1 and 2 and then going off on a little story that you made up yourself before doing step 3. It's just doing the steps and getting to the end result. And Kat did that incredibly well, which is why she got the results she did.
Yeah. Next, we have Tom O'Hagan from Grapple Machine, and his offer is fighting sports. And basically, this man knows fighting sports. He's already in a kind of established figurehead in that industry. He's not got a massive following, but he's known in that industry. He's credible. He walks the walk. He is a fighter himself. And so as a result, it means that he really knows his niche. And so he's been able to create a product with an excellent product market match. And that's 90% of the battle, because if you're operating in a niche that you know well and there's demand for it, and because you know it well, you're able to serve that niche really well, all of the pragmatic stuff and all of the delivery and all that kind of stuff just becomes so much easier.
I think that when people think about niche, so like people will have seen us talk about Tom before and they go like, oh, do I need something really specific like to work with MMA athletes to make online coaching work? Like that's not why Tom was successful. It's not because he worked with, he helped guys in MMA increase their strength. He was successful with it because he'd been in that position, solved the problem that they're having intimately, and knows like what's going on inside someone's mind when they're in that position. It's the stuff that isn't obvious, right? No one, yeah, people might be in a group that is full of MMA athletes or guys who do MMA semi-seriously, but you can't log into the group and read everybody's thoughts, right? You can't like do a niche exercise and learn the contents of someone's mind if you've not been in that position before. And so Tom had been in that position himself, worked with a lot of guys who were in that position closely. And even stuff like, I remember when we were setting his pricing, we discussed him having to adjust his pricing down a little bit because he knew that all the guys he'd be working with would all have 2 gym memberships, which is something I didn't know. So like all of them are going to have their MMA gym and their like Pure Gym, David Lloyd, whatever. And he also knew that a lot of them had a rough tolerance for what they would spend on this part of their life. So this was all stuff that Tom brought to the table when we were working with him. Like our role in working with a coach isn't to give you the sort of behind the scenes knowledge of the person you want to help. Like that's your expertise. But he had so much of that it was just arranging the pieces on a chessboard really. And that's, if you serve a prior version of you or someone very similar to you, or solve a problem for other people that you've solved for yourself in the past or for clients in the past, it's just the marketing's so much easier, the sales are so much easier, the delivery is so much easier because you've just done it before. So you just have to teach other people to do it.
This is why we would totally fail if we were to try and offer a product for combat athletes, because we don't know that niche, and so we'd end up pricing it wrong, we'd deliver it wrong, all this kind of stuff. And so you're immediately at an advantage if you have intimate knowledge about the people you're working with. And it's why we always slate the idea of the 25-year-old single with no dependents trainer who's always been in good shape, great genetics, and starts working with single mums in their 50s because that's where the money is, they think. Because you don't know the first thing about them. You can't empathize with them at all. So unless you're a bit of a weirdo and you have some specialist knowledge about the life of Margaret, then pick a niche which is you, but a couple of chapters ago. So
maybe just to really prove this point, you and I should try and launch like an MMA grappling program, just to prove that it wouldn't
just to
work.
watch it flop.
And you and I can just wrestle and grapple in a video and then sell the program at the end. I'm keen if you are.
I think there's definitely demand. It might be demand from the wrong audience, but we can give it a go.
Sales are sale, end of the day.
We're saying that because in the past, years ago, our YouTube subscribers went from 500 to 1,000 overnight. And we got loads of messages, people saying like, oh, guys, can you do more videos about you guys oiled up wrestling each other, and we'll sponsor your supplements, and we want to see more wrestling. We were like,
so someone offered to send us like Amazon vouchers to buy supplements and protein powder if we wrestled each other, it covered in oil, and sent it to them. Write in the comments below whether or not you think we did it or not.
whether we wrestled or posted it ourselves onto
Either.
Fair enough.
I think if you're going to do it, you might as well send it.
Yeah, it was all your fault, Jonny. I mean, it was a picture of Jonny posted on Hot Teen Muscle Hunks forum.
Hang on. The way you phrased that makes it sound like I posted a picture of myself on hotteenmusclehunks.com. I was just doing a deadlift.
To clarify, Jonny was the victim in this. He didn't actively participate.
Someone somehow got a hold of this footage, don't know where from, and presumably they'd been sent it by, I don't know who it could have possibly been. And then, and then suddenly I went viral for the wrong reasons. I've got over it now though. So luckily the Amazon supplement vouchers helped a lot.
Yeah. So final things, we want to cover the key actions that all the successful coaches in the program take, and also the key mindset habits that these people have. So we've covered this briefly, but just to kind of lay it out, the first one is leaning into your strengths. This is done with the specialist knowledge you have about your niche, but also things like the type of content that you do, the way that you sell. If you're naturally someone who's a bit shy, not very good on camera, don't like the sound of your voice, but you're a really good writer, don't try and do YouTube and podcast as your main content sources. Like, you're making it difficult for yourself. You're increasing the friction to getting consistent content out there. If you are like us and you love talking to a camera, to be honest, we don't actually love it, but
We hate it.
then lean into what is comfortable and what you can do consistently.
So we've had people who will do our 14-day challenge, which, again, go watch that video if you want to learn about what that is and how it works. But people will see that and go, oh, I don't want to do video, or I don't feel comfortable on video, or I don't have somewhere to shoot video, or even, like, as Yusuf said, I just don't like how I come across that way. I think that's probably a skill that you'll build over time, but completely fair enough in the early stages if you don't want to do that. We've had people do written versions of it, email versions of it. It's not necessarily how the information is presented. It's what you say and who you're saying it to, and the sequence of that information. So as long as someone on the other end of a screen is able to consume the information, it'll still work. So it's about leaning into what you're good at and not putting yourself in a position where, like, you're forcing a video for the sake of it and then not liking the outcome.
And fortunately, on that note, a good offer atones many sins. So you don't get more points for entering a really difficult, saturated market. Make it easy for yourself. And actually, if you do that, you're cycling downhill and it's much easier. So picking something, even if it means niching to 2 or 3 levels and making it as easy as possible for you to make sales for yourself. This is why we take the mick out of people who try and do fat loss for busy professionals, because it's not really a niche and everyone's trying to do that.
Yeah, and as soon as you're trying to help the 2 people, or solve 2 problems, I should say, then it is immediately half as effective for each one of those people, right? Or each one of those problems. So a common like pitfall that I think a lot of people have, or a common mistake that a lot of people make, either right when they start working with us, so we have to steer them away from, or something that they've already tried, is it's like, oh, I couldn't possibly just work with this person or just solve that problem because that's too specific, or I'm narrowing my market so much. But a good offer is actually just solving a very specific problem for a specific person. If you get those things lined up, then someone will see your ad, or they'll see your post, or they'll see your program and go like, that's the thing I've been looking for. So getting that right is so important. As you said, it can make up for lots of errors in other parts of the business, and everything can still work.
It's unlikely to be too specific. Like, good luck trying to find a problem that only one person in the world has. Yeah. There's a game called Google Whacking. I think it's impossible nowadays because Google's just so big, but the object of the game was to find a Google search term that only produces one result.
Wow.
And it's really hard, which just shows that even if you think it's hyper-specific, if it solves the problem effectively and you can market to that.
I think this comes from an offline way of thinking. So I think coaches will be used to operating in their town or in their city or in their gym, and they see there's so many people in the gym that they could work with, and there's that many other trainers. And if I said to them, you can only work with people who are between the ages of 28 and 29, or 36
and 37.
With golfers. Yeah, they'd be like, whoa, like, no, there's no way I'd fill my coaching roster like that. But I had to look this up for a webinar the other day. I think Instagram has 2 billion monthly active users right now, just Instagram, right? So then you think, well, how many online clients would I need? So if people are paying £100 a month and I want a really sustainable, like, comfortable living, let's say I had 70 online clients. Firstly, normally people panic and think, well, I couldn't work with that many. It's a separate problem. But if you had 70 paying £100 a month, £7,000 a month, 70, 80 grand a year, and then think of the percentage that 70 is of 2 billion. You think, well, really, like, is the problem that there aren't enough people that have that problem? Almost certainly not, right? It's just that we're used to thinking about things in the way that we normally deal with them. So in the context of your gym, your town, your city, I completely get it. It seems too specific. But as soon as we're moving online, because of even just one social media platform, the available reach, the available number of active users, the more specific you are with the problem you solve and the person you're trying to solve that problem for, the more you'll stand out in what is ultimately a huge, very busy market. But if you narrow that down, you remove the friction between you and the end customer.
So the next action that the successful coaches have is that they turn up and they hit a single. So what I mean by that is that it's not that they punch an unmarried person, but it's that they sorry, couldn't resist the dad joke there. But they turn up and they just do one module each week. They have a single target for each week. They're not the people who do terribly are the people who do the opposite of this. They do nothing for months, and then they're right, I'm going to have a massive action day because I've watched a Grant Cardone motivational video, and then they try and just do loads of stuff in one go, and then nothing again. And what would you say to your fitness clients? You can't go in and just trash yourself, trash every muscle group in the body in a 6-hour gym session and be like, right, that's me sorted for the month.
There's something that Chris Brown, Chris Breezy, said on Instagram recently. It was something like every day with most of the things you do in your business, like you have a really productive day, you tick loads of boxes and you feel like you've made loads of progress, and the next day you wake up and you're at zero again, and you've got to like build that momentum back up and tick those boxes again, and the next day you wake up and you're at zero again. And it's like you're renting success, I think was the phrase. So like this idea that you can't just do all of it on Monday and then expect things to run. Like there are things that, especially when you're in the building phase of stuff, so when you're trying to get your business up and running and get your customer level to a critical mass and build your program and build your systems, it's very unlikely you're going to do that in a week or a month. And if you look at it like that, the people who think I'm going to have this big day, this big push, they're just viewing it in the wrong way. And interestingly, those are also the sort of people who tend to have these really lofty financial targets. So one of the questions we ask on like enrollment calls into Propane Business to kind of try and screen for this is like, what are your financial expectations for this? And actually the people who say like, oh, you know what, like 500, £1,000 a month, those are the people who by far exceed those targets and make way more than that. And the people who say, oh, well, I should be doing at least 100 grand a year in year one, those are also the people who tend to have a week of effort and then it drops off. So being extremely consistent over a long period of time, unfortunately, is the unappealing truth, right? And the same thing you tell your clients who are thinking about doing the 14-day detox diet, right? You would tell them it's calorie balance and progressive overload, probably. It's the same with business.
Absolutely. So success action number 4, and I'm not going to say too much about this because we cover it more in the mindset features, is that they are action biased. When there's a choice between thinking about something and just having a go, just doing a minimum viable version of it, just having a punt, they'll always go for that. Finally, action number 5 is that they're always working on the bottleneck in their business. Some of that is you need a coach to help identify what is the bottleneck in my business, because a lot of the time, one of the common problems we have with people that we work with is like, God, I don't know where to start. I've got this amount of time to spend on my business and I don't really know how to allocate it and what to be doing. And for the last 6 months, I've been spending it tweaking my PT hub to have the nice colors, and I've been making loads of those swipey Instagram carousels, and I'm not getting any clients. Or they're doing the work, but they're not allocating it in the right place. Whereas with a bit of objectivity, you can say, okay, let's look at my business as a whole, as a big picture. Where am I most deficient? Is it the ability to gain new leads? Is it the ability to close those sales? Is it my capacity to coach the number of clients? Or is it my personal productivity in my software?
I think that one's extremely difficult to do on your own. Like I think we've been through that exercise so many times, hundreds of thousands of times, and we still get caught up in like the thing that we feel personally most invested in or that is most important. But we'll speak to a coach who'll just go, you just need to do this. And like,
yeah, every time. And quite often it's stuff that we hadn't considered. And the coach just sees it so obviously, and we're like,
there's always that reaction as well, isn't there?
Surprise.
The number of calls you and I have been on when we go like, oh, my, stuff that is As soon as someone said it to you, it's immediately incredibly obvious. But you get so caught up in the font that you're using on your Canva infographics, or the color scheme of your brand, or should your logo be a triangle or a square, and then it takes someone else to just say, look, like, you haven't got any leads over the last month. And while even us talking about it sounds obvious, you'll have that problem in your own business right now. It just won't be immediately obvious to you because you get caught up in the stories. So I think having objectivity, either from a coach or friends or family member, whatever, someone who's not as emotionally invested in the outcome as you, who understands it enough to be able to look at things and say, that's the problem.
Super helpful. So that's it for the actions. Now we have 4 key things about the mindsets of the successful coaches that causes them to smash it. The first one is knowing when to switch gear. So quite often there's 2 scenarios. You could either be turning up, hitting a single, so punching an unmarried person every week, and you keep finding new unmarried people and punching them, and you're not getting anywhere. And you could do that for years and not make any progress with your business. Alternatively, you could be turning up and doing some daily action towards your business. You're building out your email automations, you're working on your 14-day challenge sequence, you're working on your marketing, and you're compounding. And over time, that then starts to go vertical. And it's about distinguishing between, are you hitting a single or are you punching an unmarried person? And it's knowing when to change gear or when to say, oh no, this is the right action, I just need to stick to it for a bit longer. So some of that is having faith in the process that you're following. Here's an example of it for us. Like, we are trying this new YouTube strategy, as you probably will have noticed, these kind of conversational videos, and we're not expecting viral growth within 2 weeks. We know this is the kind of thing that
You might not be.
we know that most successful YouTube channels, like, to hit 10,000 subscribers, the average person has posted 500 videos. To hit 100,000 subscribers, they've posted on average 1,000 videos or 2,000 videos. So it is just a case of knowing when the right actions compound and knowing when to shift gear. Are you working towards something that has compounding results, or are you going down the wrong path?
Yep.
And knowing whether abandoning something that's going down the wrong path is truly that, or if it's just shiny object syndrome and you're just looking for the one secret marketing hack that doctors don't want you to know. And so these guys, they think in bets. They work on probabilities when they're iterating on their challenge. They're always running tests, and they don't see any particular launch for a product as a success or a failure. It's always about, what did I learn from this? What can I tweak? How can I improve the conversion for next time? And just iterating on that.
It's really just running a series of experiments. So it's just taking some parameters, testing them, taking the emotion out of it, looking at the results, saying, okay, well, based on these results, I'm going to change this one thing, and I'm going to run the experiment again. And you keep doing that over and over and over again. The question is, like, where you want to start your experimentation from. And I think, like, what all our clients are doing is they're taking that attitude, which is ultimately like how you succeed in anything, but from the platform of our 10 years of experiments, I guess. So, like, really all propane businesses, all our coaching and mentoring is just, here's our 10 years of us doing that, package it into these modules, this system, this information, our help. You can take that as your starting point and then experiment away, and at least you've saved 10 years of your life. But what a sales pitch. But yeah, I think the key thing is really, there isn't really a way to fast track that, I don't think, aside from obviously like learning from somebody else. But learning on your own or doing it on your own, it is just a series of bets. Like, I think, pretty sure this is going to work, I'm going to test it. If it doesn't, then change one thing and rerun it.
Mindset number 2 is not overthinking. So we talked about being action biased and staying stupid. This is it, just not getting in your own way, because so many people will sit on the fence trying to craft this perfect program, and they won't launch anything, they won't post any content, they won't run any ads to anything, because they want to make sure they're always putting it off because they're perfectionists. And I totally understand the perfectionist mindset, but it's getting in your way. And the only way you can get something better is by battle testing it. So it doesn't matter if it's rubbish to start with. It doesn't matter if you think that it could be better. Just start doing it, start posting, and then you can iterate. Because without that, you're not getting any data from those tests. You're just, stuck in the brain garden thinking about something that may not have any result. Next is mindset number 3. They do the high yield tasks first. So the people who are most successful go through the program and they know not to spend 3 hours shopping for the perfect branch chain amino acids and worrying about their ankle mobility and being really caught up with the protein timing. And so on the business side, it's not getting caught up by trying to get the perfect header for your website and just over optimizing for your My PT Hub personalized dashboard and getting the latest app and all this stuff, because they know that until I'm getting consistent clients and sales, then all of this is academic.
The difficulty is that, for example, with a logo, we cover that in our program. You kind of have to, right? It's part of a business, and we can't lock that until someone's hit a certain criteria. There's just there's a recommended sequence that we recommend going through things, but you do sometimes see it where someone will get through part of the process of the highest yield thing, which is ultimately building your customer acquisition process, your customer acquisition system, the 14-day challenge, getting clients through the door. But there's a lot of stuff that comes up with that, like the emotion of, what if it doesn't work? What if people don't like it? What if people criticize me? And actually, the logo that I design, well, that's not going to criticize me. I'm not going to fail to achieve my logo. So people tend to default to that. So yeah, the focusing on the highest yield tasks first are the people who 6 weeks in have launched the challenge twice and hit their client target already, and maybe don't even have a logo.
Yeah, it's very comfortable to get caught on week 1 and tweaking your logo for ages and make it perfect because it's safe and but we'd prefer that you were just running tests with your marketing and getting new clients and not having a logo at all than having the most world-class logo but you're still stuck in your head. And then final thing is knowing what to outsource. So these are all people who have run their tests, they've got money into the business, they've been successful after 3-4 months, and then what they're faced with is, I've got a certain amount of cash and a certain amount of time. How do I free up as much time as possible? And so they start to turn a lot of their business actions into processes, into systems that they can then automate, or if they can't automate, they start delegating to virtual assistants or to new team members and new coaches.
The way that we teach things lends itself to that. So everything is a system or a flow that is has a set of steps. And I think it is difficult as a coach to start to outsource things, or even as a business owner to start to outsource things, because you want to do it all on your own. And realistically, someone else is not going to do it 100% as well as you could. But understanding that time, if you take the time that was perhaps clearing your email inbox or managing one of your client groups or doing some of the more sort of lower skilled admin, giving that to somebody else means you can then add material to your program. You can then add one-to-one coaching slots and ultimately make the business function better. It is a mindset shift to be able to do that, but the people who do end up in a much better position long term.
There's a great quote that I read. I can't even remember who said it now, but it was, find someone who can do what you do at 70% of the success, teach them the extra 10%, and just be okay with 80%. Because when it's 80% as good, you can then leave that process and focus on the core profit drivers. So that is it. This video was longer than expected, but we have covered the successful makings of an online coach. If you're interested in the entire process and actually the system that we're talking about, then it's all covered here.
If you feel like you've seen enough you'd like to just discuss this with us and you'd like to speak to me, Yusuf, Alex, one of the team, about potentially working with us, we have a pretty broad range of programs, pretty broad range of prices. So you can click the link below, schedule a time that works for you, and we'll go through all the details on that call.